If you could turn anything you touch into gold, would you take that power? Before you answer, let me tell you about a man who got his wish and lost everything that truly mattered.
In a bustling trading city, where merchants from across the world came to buy and sell goods, there lived a man named Vikrant. He was already one of the most successful merchants in the region. His warehouses were filled with silk, spices, precious stones, and exotic goods from distant lands. Vikrant had built his fortune through intelligence, hard work, and shrewd business deals. He knew how to negotiate, when to buy, and when to sell. His wealth had grown steadily over the years, and by the time he reached middle age, he was living in comfort and luxury. But for Vikrant, it was never enough. He had a beautiful wife named Anjali, who loved him deeply despite his obsession with wealth. She would often try to remind him that there was more to life than gold and silver. "We have enough," she would say gently. "We have a comfortable home, good food, and each other. Why do you push yourself so hard for more?" But Vikrant would shake his head. "There is no such thing as enough. A man must always strive for more, or he will fall behind." They had a daughter named Priya, a cheerful 8-year-old girl with bright eyes and an innocent laugh. She adored her father and would run to greet him every evening when he returned from the marketplace. "Papa, Papa," she would call, throwing her arms around him. "Did you bring me anything today?" Sometimes he would bring her a small toy or a sweet treat, but more often he was too preoccupied with business matters to think about such things. "Not today, little one," he would say, patting her head absently. "Papa has important work to do." Priya would try to hide her disappointment and skip away to play alone. Anjali watched these interactions with growing concern. "You're missing her childhood," she told Vikrant one evening. "She won't be young forever. Spend time with her while you can." "I'm building wealth for her future," Vikrant replied defensively. "When she's older, she'll thank me for it." Despite his success, Vikrant was never satisfied. When he looked at other wealthy merchants, he felt envy burning in his chest. There was always someone with a larger house, more servants, finer clothes, bigger ships. "If only I had more," he would think to himself late at night. "If only I could be the richest man in the entire city. Then I would finally be content." He began taking greater risks in business. He borrowed money to invest in expensive ventures. He spent less time at home and more time in the marketplace, always chasing the next deal, the next opportunity to increase his wealth. His family saw less and less of him, but in his mind he was doing it all for them. One evening, as Vikrant was closing his shop in the marketplace, a stranger approached him. The man was old, with a long, white beard and eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. He wore simple robes, but there was something dignified about his bearing. "Vikrant the merchant," the old man said, his voice deep and resonant. "I have been watching you." Vikrant looked up, surprised. "Do I know you?" "No, but I know you," the stranger replied. "I know your heart's deepest desire. You want to be the richest man in the world. You want wealth beyond measure. You want everything you touch to turn to gold." Vikrant's eyes widened. How did this stranger know his innermost thoughts? "Who are you?" he demanded. The old man smiled mysteriously. "I'm someone who can grant wishes. I have the power to give you what you desire most. But I must warn you, every gift comes with a price." Vikrant's heart raced with excitement. "You can make me rich beyond imagination? I can give you the power to turn anything you touch into pure gold," the stranger confirmed. "With a single touch, stone becomes gold, wood becomes gold, cloth becomes gold, everything." Vikrant could hardly believe what he was hearing. "What's the price?" The old man's expression grew serious. "The price is simply this: you must live with the consequences of your wish. Once the power is granted, it cannot be easily undone. You will have what you asked for, but you may discover that it is not what you truly wanted." Vikrant barely heard the warning. His mind was already racing with possibilities. Imagine unlimited wealth. He could touch rocks and create gold. He would become the richest man not just in the city, but in the entire world. "I accept," he said eagerly. "Give me this power." The old man looked at him with sadness in his eyes. "Very well. You have made your choice. From this moment forward, everything you touch with your bare hands will turn to gold. May you find wisdom before it's too late." The stranger raised his hand and touched Vikrant's forehead. A strange warmth spread through Vikrant's body, tingling in his fingertips. When he looked up again, the old man had vanished into the evening shadows as mysteriously as he had appeared. Vikrant stared at his hands, trembling with excitement. Did it work? Was it real? He reached out and touched a wooden post supporting his shop's awning. The moment his fingers made contact, the wood began to shimmer and transform. Within seconds, the entire post was solid gold, gleaming in the fading sunlight. Vikrant laughed in disbelief and joy. It was real. He had the golden touch. He ran through the marketplace, touching things as he went. A stone wall turned to gold. A clay pot turned to gold. An iron gate turned to gold. "I'm rich," he shouted to the empty street. "I'm the richest man alive." He ran home to tell his family the incredible news. Vikrant burst through his front door, breathless and excited. "Anjali, Priya, come quickly. You won't believe what has happened." His wife and daughter came running to see what the commotion was about. "Look," Vikrant said, touching a wooden chair. Instantly, it transformed into solid gold. "I have been blessed. Everything I touch turns to gold. We're going to be richer than we ever dreamed." Anjali's face filled with horror rather than joy. "Vikrant, what have you done?" "I've secured our future," he replied, not understanding her reaction. "Don't you see? We'll never want for anything again." Little Priya clapped her hands in delight, not understanding the implications. "Papa has magic. Do it again, Papa." Vikrant laughed and touched more objects around the house. Tables, vases, curtains, everything he touched turned to gleaming gold. But as the initial excitement faded, reality began to set in. "I'm hungry," Vikrant said. "Let's celebrate with a feast." He sat at the table as servants brought food. He reached for a piece of bread, but the moment his fingers touched it, the bread turned to solid gold. He tried to pick up a grape. It became a golden grape, hard and inedible. He tried to drink water, but when his fingers touched the cup, both the cup and the water within it transformed into gold. Vikrant stared at the golden food before him, his smile fading. I can't eat," he whispered. Anjali's fear deepened. "Vikrant, you need to eat, you need to drink. How will you survive?" "I'll figure it out," he said, trying to sound confident. "Perhaps if someone else feeds me without me touching the food." They tried various methods. Servants could hand him food on golden plates with golden utensils, but the moment the food touched his lips, it turned to gold. Even when they tried to pour water directly into his mouth, transformed before he could swallow. By morning, Vikrant hadn't eaten or drunk anything. His throat was dry and his stomach ached with hunger, but he tried to remain optimistic. "It's a small inconvenience," he insisted. "Look at all the gold I can create. I can hire someone to solve this problem. With unlimited wealth, surely there's a solution." He spent the morning turning everything in his house to gold. The floors, the walls, the furniture, all became precious metal. His home transformed into a palace of gold. Neighbors came to see the miracle, and word spread throughout the city. People gazed in wonder at the golden mansion, but they also whispered in concern. He hasn't eaten in a day, they murmured. How can he survive? By the second day, Vikrant was weak with hunger and thirst. His lips were cracked and dry. His body ached. But still, he insisted he would find a solution. I just need to think, he told Anjali. There must be a way. Little Priya didn't understand why her father looked so sad despite being surrounded by gold. She approached him, wanting to comfort him. Don't worry, Papa, she said, reaching out to hug him. No! Vikrant and Anjali both screamed at the same time, but it was too late. Priya's small hand touched her father's arm, and in an instant, the little girl transformed into a statue of solid gold, frozen mid-step with her arms outstretched, her innocent smile preserved forever in metal. The scream that tore from Vikrant's throat echoed through the golden halls of his home. He fell to his knees before the golden statue of his daughter, tears streaming down his face. No, 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 he sobbed. Priya, my little girl. Anjali collapsed beside him, weeping uncontrollably. She reached out to touch the golden statue but couldn't bring herself to make contact, as if touching it would make the nightmare more real. What have you done? She wept. What have you done to our baby? Vikrant tried to embrace the golden statue, but his touch only made it more solid, more permanent. His daughter was gone, transformed into lifeless metal by his cursed gift. I didn't mean to, he choked out. I didn't know. I thought. You thought of nothing but gold. Anjali screamed at him, her grief turning to rage. You cared more about wealth than your own family. And now look what you've done. Our daughter is dead because of your greed. The words hit Vikrant like physical blows, because they were true. He had been so consumed by his desire for wealth that he hadn't thought about the true cost. Anjali stood up, her face wet with tears, but her voice cold and final. I cannot stay here. I cannot look at you. You've turned everything beautiful into gold and made it worthless. Including our daughter's life. Including our daughter's life. Please, Vikrant begged. Don't leave me. I'll fix this. Somehow. I'll find a way to undo it. But Anjali shook her head. There's no undoing this. She's gone. And so am I. She walked away, careful not to touch her husband, and left the golden mansion forever. Vikrant was alone, surrounded by unlimited wealth and drowning in despair. Days passed. He couldn't eat. He couldn't drink. He grew weaker and weaker, but somehow he didn't die. The curse that gave him the golden touch also seemed to keep him alive, forcing him to endure the consequences of his wish. The golden mansion that had seemed so magnificent now felt like a tomb. Every surface gleamed with the color of his greed. The golden statue of Priya stood in the center of the main hall, a constant reminder of what his obsession had cost him. Vikrant stopped creating gold. There was no point anymore. His entire mansion was already gold. And what good was it? He couldn't eat it. He couldn't drink it. He couldn't hold his daughter's hand or feel his wife's embrace. The other merchants in the city who had once envied him now pitied him. Some even feared him, worried that his curse might be contagious. The Golden Merchant, they called him, but not with admiration, with horror. Vikrant spent his days sitting beside the golden statue of his daughter, talking to her as if she could hear him. I'm sorry, Priya, he would whisper. I was a fool. I wanted to give you everything, but I ended up taking everything away. You were my greatest treasure, and I didn't realize it until it was too late. He thought constantly about the old man's warning. Every gift comes with a price. You may discover that it is not what you truly wanted. How right the stranger had been, and how blind Vikrant had been to ignore the warning. On the seventh day of his torment, Vikrant made a decision. He would find the mysterious stranger who had given him this curse and beg him to take it back. He left his golden mansion, wrapping his hands in thick cloth so he wouldn't accidentally turn anything else to gold. He wandered through the city, asking everyone if they had seen the old man with the white beard. Most people avoided him, frightened by his gaunt appearance and his reputation, but a few took pity and tried to help. "I saw an old man matching that description," one person said. He was heading toward the mountains, to the old temple ruins. Vikrant immediately set out on the journey. It was difficult. His body was weak from days without food or water. His feet bled in his shoes, but he pressed on, driven by desperate hope. After 2 days of traveling, he reached the ancient temple ruins high in the mountains. And there, sitting in meditation among the crumbling stones, was the old man. The stranger opened his eyes as Vikrant approached. "I knew you would come," the old man said calmly. Vikrant fell to his knees, gasping from exhaustion and emotion. "Please," he begged, "take it back. I don't want the golden touch anymore. I'll give anything. Just please, undo what you've done." "What I've done?" The old man repeated gently. "I only granted your wish. You did this to yourself." "I was wrong," Vikrant cried. "I was a fool. I thought wealth would make me happy, but it's destroyed everything I truly cared about. My daughter is dead. My wife has left me. I can't eat or drink. I'm dying slowly, surrounded by gold that means nothing to me. Please, I'm begging you, take it away." The old man studied him for a long moment. "Tell me, Vikrant, what have you learned?" Vikrant's voice shook as he spoke. "I've learned that wealth means nothing without love. That gold cannot buy happiness, health, or life. That a father's embrace is worth more than all the treasures in the world. That I already had everything I needed, and I destroyed it chasing something worthless." Tears streamed down his face. "I've learned that I was rich before I ever had the golden touch, and I didn't realize it. My true wealth was my family, and I threw it away for metal and greed." The old man nodded slowly. "You have learned wisdom through suffering. That is often the hardest way to learn, but also the most permanent." "Can you help me?" Vikrant whispered. "Can you bring my daughter back?" "I can remove the curse," the old man said, "but there is a condition. To break the spell, you must give up all of the gold you have created. Every coin, every object, all of it must be returned to its original form or given away. You must become poorer than you were before. Can you accept this?" "Yes," Vikrant said without hesitation. "Take it all. I don't want any of it. Just please give me back my daughter." The old man stood up and placed his hand on Vikrant's head. "Then so be it. Return to your home. Touch the golden statue of your daughter with your bare hand and wish for her return with all your heart. The gold will leave her, and she will live again. But remember, this is your last chance. Use it wisely." Vikrant raced back to his golden mansion as fast as his weakened body could carry him. Every step was agony, but hope drove him forward. When he finally reached home, he burst through the golden doors and ran to the main hall where the statue of Priya stood. He unwrapped the cloths from his hands, took a deep breath, and placed his palms on the cold golden surface of his daughter's statue. "Come back to me," he whispered with all the love and desperation in his heart. "Please, Priya, come back." For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the golden surface began to change. The metal softened, returning to warm flesh. Color returned to her cheeks. Her clothes transformed back from gold to cloth. And then her eyes opened. "Papa?" she said, confused and disoriented. Vikrant pulled her into his arms, sobbing with joy and relief. "You're alive. Oh, my precious girl, you're alive." Priya hugged him back, not understanding why her father was crying so hard. To her, only a moment had passed. She didn't remember being transformed, or the days she had spent as a statue. "Papa, why are you crying?" she asked. "And why is everything gold?" Vikrant laughed through his tears. "It doesn't matter. None of it matters. You're back. That's all that matters." He looked around at the golden mansion. According to the old man's condition, he had to give it all away. Every bit of gold he had created must go. He didn't hesitate. Over the following days, Vikrant systematically gave away every piece of gold. He donated it to the poor, to hospitals, to orphanages, to anyone who needed it. He kept nothing for himself. The golden mansion transformed back into a simple house. The golden furniture became wood and clay again. The golden decorations disappeared. Everything returned to how it had been before, except even simpler, because he gave away more than just the cursed gold. Soon Vikrant's wealth was gone. He was poor again, poorer than he had been when he started. His merchant business was ruined, his reputation damaged. He had to start over from nothing, but he didn't care. He had his daughter back. That was worth more than all the gold in the world. Anjali, hearing that Priya had returned to life, came back to see if it was true. When she saw her daughter alive and well, she wept with joy. "How?" she asked Vikrant. "The curse is broken," he said. "I gave it all away, everything. We're poor now, Anjali. I have nothing to offer you but myself. I understand if you don't wanna." Anjali silenced him with a gesture. "You gave away the gold, but you kept what matters. You kept your humanity. You learned your lesson." She looked at him carefully. "Have you truly changed, Vikrant? Or will you chase wealth again?" Vikrant shook his head firmly. "Never. I've learned what real wealth is. It's not in gold or silver. It's in moments like this. In our daughter's laughter. In your smile. In having enough food to share with my family. That's the only wealth I need." Starting over was hard. Vikrant had to take whatever work he could find. He worked as a simple laborer, carrying goods for other merchants, the same merchants who had once envied his wealth. Some of them mocked him. "Look at the great Vikrant now," they would say, reduced to carrying bags like a common worker. But Vikrant didn't let it bother him. He worked honestly, earned enough to feed his family, and went home each evening with a smile. Every evening, Priya would run to greet him at the door, just as she had done before. But now, instead of being too preoccupied to notice, Vikrant would scoop her up in his arms and spin her around, delighting in her laughter. "Tell me about your day, little one," he would say. "What did you learn? What did you play?" And Priya would chatter excitedly about her day, and Vikrant would listen to every word as if it were the most important thing in the world. Because it was. Anjali watched this transformation in her husband with quiet satisfaction. The man who had once been too busy counting coins to notice his family was now fully present, fully engaged, fully alive. They lived in a small house now, much smaller than their previous home. They had simple food, simple clothes, but there was laughter in their home. There was love. One evening, as Vikrant was tucking Priya into bed, she asked him a question. "Papa, are you sad that we're poor now?" Vikrant thought about the question seriously, then smiled. "No, my dear, I'm not sad at all. In fact, I'm happier now than I was when we had a mansion full of gold." "Why?" Priya asked, confused. "Because now I can hug you without fear," he said, pulling her close. "I can hold your mother's hand. I can eat dinner with my family and taste every bite. I can feel the sunshine and the rain. These simple things are worth more than all the gold that ever existed." Priya yawned, not fully understanding but comforted by her father's words. I'm glad you can hug me, Papa. I like your hugs. And I like giving them, Vikrant said softly, kissing her forehead. Sleep well, my precious treasure. As Priya drifted off to sleep, Vikrant sat beside her bed for a moment, watching her peaceful face. He thought about the golden statue she had been, frozen and lifeless, and he thanked whatever powers existed that he had been given a second chance. Years passed. Vikrant slowly rebuilt a modest trading business, but this time he did it differently. He never took unnecessary risks. He never put profit above people. He never forgot what truly mattered. When other merchants would push for unfair deals, Vikrant would refuse. There's enough for everyone to prosper, he would say. Greed only leads to suffering. Some thought he was naive, but others respected his integrity and preferred to do business with him because they knew he was honest. He never became wealthy again in terms of gold and silver, but he was rich in ways that mattered, rich in family, rich in friendships, rich in peace of mind. On his deathbed many years later, surrounded by his wife, his now grown daughter, and his grandchildren, Vikrant reflected on his life. I want to tell you all a story, he said in a weak but peaceful voice. A story about a foolish man who thought gold was wealth, and he told them the full tale, the story of the golden touch that he had kept secret for so many years. His grandchildren listened with wide eyes, fascinated by the magical and terrible story. Grandpa, one of them asked, if you could go back and choose again, would you still accept the golden touch? Vikrant was quiet for a moment, then shook his head. No. But I'm grateful I did, because it taught me the most important lesson of my life. It taught me what true wealth really is. What is true wealth, Grandpa? The child asked. Vikrant looked around at his family, at the faces he loved more than anything in the world. True wealth is love. It's family. It's being able to hold the people you care about. It's watching your children grow. It's sharing a simple meal with those you love. It's moments like this one right now. He smiled at his daughter, Priya, who was now a woman with children of her own. You were once a golden statue, frozen and lifeless. But now you're here, alive, with a family of your own. That's worth more than all the gold in every kingdom that ever existed. Priya took his hand, tears in her eyes. Thank you for saving me, Papa, and thank you for teaching me what really matters. No, Vikrant said softly. Thank you for coming back to me. You saved me more than I saved you. You gave me a reason to give up the gold. You showed me what I was really living for. As the sun set outside the window, casting a golden glow across the room, though now the color gold held no terror, only beauty, Vikrant closed his eyes for the last time, content in the knowledge that he had lived a truly rich life. Not rich in gold, but rich in all the ways that matter. Remember, dear viewer, that we all chase our own versions of gold. For some, it's money. For others, it's fame, power, or success. But the Golden Merchant's story reminds us to ask ourselves, what are we sacrificing in pursuit of these goals? Are we turning the living, breathing, beautiful things in our lives into cold, lifeless metal? Are we so focused on getting more that we forget to appreciate what we already have? True wealth cannot be measured in currency. It's measured in relationships, in experiences, in love, in the ability to touch and be touched by the world around us. Before you reach for more, look at what you already hold in your hands. You might discover that you're already richer than you ever realized. Thank you for watching. If this story made you reconsider what true wealth means, please share it with someone who needs this reminder.